Welcome to Refuel with Jennifer Ballou. Join Jennifer for the next hour for a time to recharge, refresh, and refuel your heart and soul. Here's your host, Jennifer Ballou.
Hey guys, welcome back to Refuel. I'm so happy to have you here. If this is your first time joining us, then I recommend going back and watching some of the past episodes, listening to past episodes. We've been talking about spring cleaning for the last few weeks, and I'm not talking about spring cleaning your home. We've been talking about spring cleaning our lives. And today we are going to have a little talk about mental health and self-care and a few things like that. So what does that have to do with spring cleaning, you ask? It has a lot to do with it. Last week we talked a lot about self-awareness, and this is just still kind of part of that process, because when we become self-aware, I think we really do start paying attention to a lot of our mental health, where we are emotionally. There's lots of range within mental health. So just for some, that does include an extreme of, where there's medication needed, where there is an imbalance and different things like that. For some of us, it's just being in a little bit of an emotional spiral, I guess, or maybe not even that. It may just be a quick, okay, I recognize that emotionally I'm not so healthy right now. I need to take some time. I need to step back and find something that, that I can get alone with God with and really refuel. So in that whole gamut of emotional well-being, God wants us to be emotionally well. He wants us to be stable. He wants our mental health to be at 100%. And so that means taking a little time for self-care. But we have to be self-aware for all of that to work and for all of that to happen. So I have Jodie with me again today. We're just going to continue our conversation. But I did want to give you a little illustration that I hope helps you out a little bit. If you followed on social media for the last couple of weeks, which you should be because we're doing a big giveaway, and you should just be because, it's fun. Anyway, but there have been some pictures of my storage building on there. And last October, I took an entire weekend. Got up early one morning, emptied the building, the whole thing. And it was way worse than it is in those pictures right now. Emptied that whole building, went through every bin, every box, and I reorganized it in a way that, I put things that I needed to get to easily, continually throughout the year in one section. I put things that, I wouldn't need that often in another. And then some things that I knew I really would never need to get to unless it was some huge emergency, tucked away to where there was some furniture and other big items that were in front of them. So, it was fine for that stuff to be there. So I had it done. It was great. And then life happened. And, children moving, their life situations changing. My father-in-law moved into a different facility, and so more furniture came back from his place. And, we cleaned out things at our home that I wasn't quite ready to get rid of, so it went over to the storage building. Things from the studio that have gotten packed up and moved over there. So it's a mess again. Do I know where those things still are? Yes, I do. Can I get to them easily? Not so much. There's a lot of moving that has to happen to get to those things. But that is so much of what our life looks like. We think we have it all figured out. We have done all the things, the self-care, the mental well-being. We have become self-aware. We can kind of pinpoint when things are happening and different things like that. But life happens and things get thrown in there that we were not expecting. We still have to take the time, and I will be doing that with the actual storage room very soon. We still have to take the time to go through those things, rearrange, fill up a dumpster, whatever needs to be done to make sure that we are operating at 100%. Because there is nothing that feels better than getting a storage room totally organized, or your house completely scrubbed down, everything organized and ready to go. There's no feeling like it, and we want that same feeling within our own lives. So let's join Jodie as we discuss some more about self-awareness, mental health, and self-care. God is relational. Mm-hmm. It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
And even the whole series about spring cleaning, that's really what this is about too, because mm-hmm. again, we can't love others well when we're carrying around, a backpack full of garbage, mm-hmm. And feelings about our own self and things like that just don't translate well into loving people. Exactly. You may think that you're doing a good job loving people, but when you are, slamming shut drawers full of roaches or whatever, it's I don't know. I hope this comes across like it's...
No, that's so good.
But, anything else on the Enneagram that's...
Just do it.
Yeah.
Read the books. The Honest Enneagram by Sarah Jane Case is a really good one too. She talks in a different language a little bit, and I like that. Mm. And then Annie F. Downs' podcast, I mentioned it.
What's been the biggest thing you learned from it in helping others and in yourself?
Yeah, mostly just self-awareness, like my tendencies, how I relate to other people.
Does it make you stop sometimes mm-hmm. in things and go, I'm not going there?
Yeah, I'll often say I'm feeling really vulnerable here, and my tendency is to run away or, mm-hmm. I don't want to feel, but that I know that's why I'm feeling funky. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling vulnerable. That's what that is called. Mm-hmm. That feeling is what it's called, is this. And a lot of that came from the Enneagram. Mm-hmm. So, and definitely in helping people. I mean, I love social work always talks about a strengths perspective. And I feel like that's just ingrained in me now. So whereas a client will come and be like, I just struggle so bad, I'll see a strength. And I'll say, man, that's your strength. Mm-hmm. Yeah, our strength is usually also our greatest weakness mm-hmm. in a way. Mm-hmm. But focus on the fact that that's a strength that you have, that God gave you that character trait because others need it. Mm-hmm. We can't all be a 6, it'd be terrible. We need an 8, female 8. Yes. We need that, or a 3 or whatever. Uh-huh. And so, it's helped me help people so much. So I don't know, I recommend everybody to read the book, and mm-hmm. and it's not just another personality test either.
No, it's very different.
It really is. So
yeah. The other one, and we talked about it on the podcast with Michelle, is the life languages mm-hmm. test. Have you ever seen that one? It's a really good one that, especially when mixed with the Enneagram, I think it's just one of those things that for myself, it made me go, okay, because I'm 97%, which that's huge. Most people tend to be 2 things pretty equally. Like you're not on the Enneagram, but also in this life languages thing. It's very rare to have 90-something%. Okay. But I'm 97% a doer, which makes sense. Yeah. But there's a lot of the times I have to stop and think, okay, I'm doing too much. Mm-hmm. this is just because I am a doer. God is showing me something, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to be the one that jumps in and does it, you know.
And doers often do a lot to avoid feeling.
Right.
And that's probably, I'm just thinking somewhere on that.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Feeler.
Yeah.
It's in the Enneagram for sure.
Yeah.
On those triads that some people just, they don't want to feel at all.
Right.
So then it's like, go, do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Avoid.
Yeah. I know for sevens, especially, that's
they definitely
true. They
sevens
just
do
want
that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, very cool. Okay, so we're going to jump now into some stuff about mental health.
Okay.
So, this is where I'll edit probably. So we're back with Jodie, and we're going to talk some more today, and we're going to talk about mental health, because I think that is a really strong part of this spring cleaning series. And I have to just make a confession that just my personality type, even some things that I have seen, and I don't know, I can't even really explain it, but mental health to me has just been kind of like, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it except, you know, make the noise and roll my eyes, you know? Because a lot of people I have seen use it as an excuse or as a crutch or different things like that. That's been my experience with people who've had some serious mental health issues.
It can be that way.
But on the flip side of that, I have a precious friend who has kind of dove into some mental health issue, like just with the counseling and different things like that. I mean, it's changed her so much for the better, and it's given her some steps to take when she's feeling really, you know, lost or down, and things like that. And I think when we're talking about spring cleaning spiritually, this is a huge thing. And I've never been like against counseling. Don't ever think that, because I mean, my husband and I have gone to marriage counseling. I've done some counseling, you know, just my one-on-one. It's good. But I think we tend to, you know, poo-poo the real mental health kind of aspect of all of that. So what are your kind of thoughts on that? And what made you jump into the counseling and mental health industry?
I think I got into the helping profession of social work first by, you know, my parents are kind of hands-on giver type people anyway. Like they always see someone who's needy and like give, and no one would know about it, but you know, me and my brother always knew. But so that definitely, and then some family stuff when I was still in college with a family member, a suicide situation, that I really got into that world of counselors and helpers and just saw how they helped my family through all of that. And so I've always wanted to go back and get my licensing for counseling as a social worker, and I just had to wait till my kids were a little bit bigger. But I don't know, I just think it is overlooked in a lot of ways, or misconceptualized. You know, like we need to get on a pill and fix our problems.
Yeah.
And I just will say, like, with the research that I've read and the experience with real people with real problems, you know, medication, there's definitely a place for it. And there's times when that's just what has to happen, because you're in crisis and your body is just not doing like it's supposed to do for whatever reason, so many different reasons. But dealing with your issues is more effective in the end than medication. So, you know, whatever that means for you, dealing with your issues. But there's wounds from the past, there's stuff deep down rooted in our hearts that we just don't want to look at again because it's so painful. But that's what a lot of times is causing the anxiety or the depression, you know, whatever's going on. There's definitely a root cause. And if we can get to the bottom of that, usually we can actually manage it pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's, you know, whether you do go to a counselor or not, I think as responsible, kingdom-minded people, we have a duty almost to really look at those places in our own lives. To, you know, where has there been trauma? Where has there been issues where, you know, the enemy can use that to push buttons? Where are we closed off emotionally? Because when we close ourselves off emotionally to ourselves, we also close ourselves off to other people. And that's,
Definitely.
you know, not healthy, and it's not what God has called us to. He's wanting us to, you know, again, that relational thing and loving other people. I can't love Jodie if there's things that are closed off from myself and from her. You know, that's just not, doesn't work.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
I wonder, I mean, I think the church is embracing it more. I think they're seeing it for what it really is now. But like we said last week, you know, that's been kind of the mentality that we grew up with was, well, if you're having issues, then you haven't prayed hard enough, then you don't believe well enough, that, you know, you don't have enough faith, you don't have this. And I mean, there's, I'm not gonna,
That's good.
bite really hard, but there are some, how do I say this? Teachings. There's some teachings.
Schools of thought.
Schools of thought, yes. That, you know, almost, it kind of just ignores the fact that life is happening and that you can still be blessed and be down in the dumps because things have happened that are not good.
Yeah.
You know, and it has nothing to do with what you did. You know, like,
we live in a broken world.
We do.
And let's consider Ecclesiastes, where he says there's a time to be happy, there's a time to mourn. And that whole list of things, I mean, that's pretty clear. The goal isn't never feel your feelings, just smooth it over and be happy because God's good.
Right.
He is good.
He is good, but he wept.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew the end of the story. He knew Lazarus was going to be raised from the dead. And still, he sat down with his friends and with Lazarus's sisters, and he cried.
Yes.
He felt those feelings, you know? I mean, he didn't want to go out into the desert. He, on the cross, said, take this from me. Like, I don't want to do this, you know? I doubt he was smiling while he was going through that.
Right.
But that was Jesus, y'all. I mean, so did he let his emotions rule him? No.
No.
And I think that's a lot of mental health care, is learning how to feel, understanding where those emotions are coming from. I know for myself, that's a big one. When I get, because we talked about the Enneagram already, when ones are feeling particularly stressed, tired, overwhelmed, they go to a unhealthy 4, which is an emotional wreck. Which, so, and I talked about it on here last March.
Wow.
I think I spent one day a week crying because just how the pandemic had hit and everything that it was just too much. And until I got on top of understanding why I was so emotional, you know, I would beat myself up about being emotional, you know, because again, that whole cycle of all of that. So as a one, I know when I get really emotional, I have to stop and take the time to rest and to cry if I need to be mad if I need to, whatever the emotion is. And sometimes it's all 5 million of them.
All at once.
But to also understand how I got to that point, and that those emotions aren't dictating how I'm living.
Well, and I always tell people, don't be afraid of the emotions, you know, or give it too much credit or whatever focus. It's just an indicator of something that we need to look deeper to see. You know, I was telling someone last week, I think it was a kid client, think of a water balloon and you squeeze it hard enough, eventually a leak is going to happen somewhere, and then keep on another leak. It's going to seep out. And so life or whatever squeezes, and those things that are hidden inside are going to come out in headaches or crying too much or anxiety. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I could list a million things, but we all have had something like that in the past. And
I never think of headaches as an emotion. That's really good. I mean, that's good.
Well, in children, a lot of times it'll be a physical problem, and then we'll say what's going on and get a little deeper, and then it's something's going on at home, and it's nothing to do with physical stuff. It's just kids' stress. Yeah. And so theirs comes out in little different ways, but adults too. Sometimes will have headaches, or just low motivation. You know, can't get out of bed, can't sleep well, all kinds of stuff. But the point is, listen to that, because it's just an indicator of some probably pain that you're experiencing or too much stress that you can't handle anymore. You got to do something about it. And so that's why I do diagnose people. I have to in my private practice, but it's just not something I would put a lot of stock into, because that's my whole philosophy is I don't really like a label. I want to look at what's going on and then say, how do we want to work on this? Because you're probably experiencing these set of symptoms because there's something deeper going on. You know, and I believe God designed us to be able to deal with all of that, you know, and he gave us those little indicators and we're supposed to listen to it. And you're right. Don't live out of your feelings. Like, I'm sad, therefore everything must be terrible. No, we're not 10. We're not 10. You know, that's what a kid does. Yeah. But big picture is, it may be a bad day. Or maybe something happened that upset you. But we can't just believe that's the truth. Yeah. And so I like that you said that.
And I've even found that, you know, if we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but the month of March, this past month, has been a particularly weird month for me, like just emotionally, physically, just all the things. And I guess because I've now learned to stop and really assess the situation, I guess is the best way to word that.
That's perfect.
And I can't pinpoint anything in particular. Instead of, again, beating myself up, well, you may not be doing this well enough, or you're not doing this right, or whatever, I now can go, well, you know what? Then there is something in the atmosphere.
Might be.
And as believers, you know, that's been kind of taken off of the radar as well from the church. Like, don't get too,
focus.
Yeah. But guess what? You know, we only see 3% of what is actually going on around us. So there is 97% of the world is invisible out there, you know? Well, that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
there's a whole lot going on in that invisible realm.
Yeah.
And it can affect me without me seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does.
And I think it's, for myself, it has made a huge difference in being able to say, okay, well, it's happening out there, so God, that's yours to take care of. And I'm just going to get up and get over myself as best as I can. And I'm still, this whole month have been very aware of how I've felt. And when it feels a little bit too like, okay, pray through it. God, it's still yours to handle because this is not something I can see.
Right.
And move on. And I think, again, this is a tool that has not been handed to us. I mean, it's one that, for myself, I just had to figure out on my own and be okay with going, okay, God, you're God. Do your thing.
Yeah, but there's a lot of freedom in that too.
Yeah, there is.
I think when you talk about the unseen, what came to mind is how much our thoughts are affected by things we don't even realize. And we get in our head, and there's a lot going on in our thought life. And how much, my personal way of doing therapy is mainly cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's really looking at our thought life and how it drives our behaviors. And I don't know, I've been quoting all week 2 Corinthians 10, where it talks about capturing your thoughts and make them obedient to Christ. And that's what I teach my clients. Even if they're not believers or, on that wavelength, I still talk about recognizing your thoughts. Is that a true thing? That is a lie. Stop it. You have so much power over your thoughts. But you got to be aware of them first. And that takes a little bit of a process, which is, I love journaling. I tell everybody to journal because that a lot of times you become aware of your thoughts when you're journaling, because you'll think, I did not even know I thought that, and I just wrote it out on the paper.
Right, yeah.
So, but you become aware of your thoughts, then you're able to say, I have this recurring thought a lot that I'm really worthless or incapable. Everything I try to do, I'll think, you're not capable of that. But then I can recognize it, so therefore then I can say, that's a lie. I am capable. And that's how you overcome. Like we have these ruts in our brains called neural pathways that we've learned to think a certain way and then behave out of that thinking our whole life probably. And we can change that. Like that's the new research in the last 20 years is like groundbreaking and amazing to show us that we don't have to stay the same. We actually can change the way that we do things by what I just said, that whole process. And so that's so powerful to me, and I get super excited about it.
No, it's awesome.
Because it's true.
Yeah. And Michelle and I were talking about what narrative are you listening to? And that's that same kind of thing. Like you have to be aware. Be aware enough of yourself and of, your perspectives and just your I don't know. I don't even know what words I'm trying to say. But to know, am I listening to the world's narrative? Am I listening to the kingdom narrative? Is what God says about me true?
Yeah.
Or what I've been taught from others? Is that, there's so much terminology floating around the world right now of like your truth.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know what? They're right. Everybody does have their own truth.
That's probably not the right word.
No. What everybody has is your own opinion and your own narrative.
Yeah.
There's only one truth.
Yes.
And we just have to know how to tap into that narrative so that ours will line up. And a lot of times we have to make ours line up because again, our perspective, our personalities, that's just part of the learning process. And Okay, guys, that's it for today's show. I hope you got some good nuggets out of it. And I hope you will join me next week as we continue discussing about spring cleaning our internal lives and what that looks like, how our own little world and how nice and neat and clean we can get it with God's help in this editing process. Be sure and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe here on YouTube, join our giveaway because it's a good one, and make sure that you check in the website refuelwithjennifer.com and email me if you have any questions or if you'd like to share your story of spring cleaning your internal world. So I hope you all have a great week and I'll see you soon. Bye guys.